Just imagine rising from an ordinary childhood in Brooklyn, born January 20th, 1953, into the highest circles of wealth and power, shaking hands with presidents, flying on private jets, hosting billionaires and royalty at your mansions, only to end your life alone inside a concrete cell under federal custody. This is a story that shouldn't exist. A narrative so twisted, so layered with coincidence and unanswered questions that it reads like fiction. But every word you're about to hear is real. This is the story of Jeffrey Epstein, a man with no credentials who became a billionaire, a predator who walked among the elite, a criminal who escaped justice once and then died before he could face it again. But here's the question that haunts millions of people around the world. Did he really die by his own hand? Or did something else happen that night in August 2019? What you're about to discover will shake your faith in justice. It will make you question what happens when institutional failures align in impossible ways. Because sometimes the most troubling truths aren't the ones we can prove, they're the ones we can never know for certain. This is a journey into the shadows of wealth, the failures of justice, and the mysterious death that left more questions than answers. Are you ready? Because there's no going back once you know the facts. Brooklyn, New York, 1953. The post-war American dream is in full swing. Families are moving to the suburbs, children are playing in the streets, hope fills the air. And somewhere in this ordinary tapestry of American life, Jeffrey Epstein takes his first breath. There's nothing special about his childhood, nothing that marks him as different. His father, Seymour, works as a groundskeeper for the New York City Parks Department. His mother, Paula, is a school aide. They live in a modest home in Coney Island, later moving to Brooklyn's Seagate community. Middle class, comfortable, unremarkable. Young Jeffrey attends local schools. He's bright, teachers notice that, but he's not extraordinary. No child prodigy, no remarkable talents that set him apart from thousands of other kids growing up in New York during the 1950s and 60s. He starts college at Cooper Union, then transfers to NYU, but he never finishes. No degree, no credentials, just another college dropout trying to find his way in the world. And then, something changes. In 1973, at just 20 years old, Jeffrey Epstein somehow lands a job teaching calculus and physics at the Dalton School, one of Manhattan's most prestigious private institutions, where tuition costs more than most people's annual salary. Think about that for a moment. A college dropout with no teaching credentials is hired to educate the children of New York's elite. The circumstances of how this happened remain unclear to this day. At Dalton, he teaches for 2 years, and it's here that he makes connections. Parents of students, wealthy families, people who move in circles most of us will never touch. These connections allegedly help him transition into the world of finance. By 1976, he's left teaching and entered investment banking at Bear Stearns. Again, no formal training, no MBA, no background in finance, but somehow he finds a path forward. He climbs, he impresses people. Then, in 1982, he makes a move that defies conventional logic. He leaves Bear Stearns and starts his own financial management firm. But this isn't a normal investment company. Epstein claims he only works with billionaires, clients who have a minimum net worth of $1 billion. Let me repeat that. A former school teacher with no college degree and no verifiable track record in finance is managing money for billionaires. Who were these clients? How did he get them? What services was he actually providing? Nobody knows for certain, because Epstein never registered as an investment advisor with the SEC. His firm operated in complete opacity, hidden from regulatory oversight. There are no public records of his clients, no transparent accounting of his methods, no clear paper trail explaining how he amassed his own fortune. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Jeffrey Epstein becomes a fixture in elite circles. He's photographed at exclusive parties in Manhattan. He owns a massive mansion on the Upper East Side in Manhattan, one of the largest private residences in New York. He has an estate in Palm Beach, Florida, a ranch in New Mexico, an apartment in Paris. And then there's the island, Little St. James, a 70-acre private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, purchased by Epstein in 1998 for $7.95 million. He builds a mansion there, guest houses, strange temple-like structures. It becomes his personal retreat, accessible only by private boat or helicopter. Locals eventually call it something else, Pedophile Island. But at this point, most of the world has no idea. To the public, Jeffrey Epstein is just another mysterious billionaire, eccentric perhaps, but operating within normal bounds. A man who says he loves science and funds research, someone who knows famous people. But in the hidden corners of his vast empire, away from the cameras and the social gatherings, something sinister is happening. Something that's been happening for years, growing in the darkness. And it's about to be exposed. March 2005, Palm Beach, Florida. A mother walks into the Palm Beach Police Department, her teenage daughter by her side. The girl is nervous, traumatized, but she's ready to speak. She tells detectives a story that will crack open one of the darkest criminal cases in American history. Jeffrey Epstein paid her $300 to give him a massage at his mansion. But it wasn't a massage, it was abuse, sexual exploitation, a crime disguised as a transaction. The detective who takes the statement, Joe Riccari, investigates, and what he finds is horrifying. More girls come forward, not just one or two, dozens. Each story echoes the others with chilling consistency. They describe a system, a network of exploitation. Girls as young as 14 are approached by recruiters, often young women who had previously been victims themselves. They're offered money, sometimes $200, sometimes $300, for what's described as massage work at Epstein's mansion. When they arrive, they're led upstairs to a room. Epstein is there, sometimes alone, sometimes with his companion Ghislaine Maxwell. What happens next is abuse, sexual touching, coercion, manipulation. The girls are told it's normal, that they're special, that they should bring friends and earn more money. It's a pyramid scheme of predation. Victims become recruiters, the network grows, and at the center of it all, Jeffrey Epstein orchestrates the operation, protected by wealth and lawyers. Detective Riccari works the case for months. He interviews dozens of victims. He collects evidence, phone records, flight logs, witness testimonies. He builds what he believes is a strong case. The FBI gets involved. Federal prosecutors from the Southern District of Florida take over. By 2006, investigators have identified at least 34 confirmed victims. The evidence is substantial. This is a federal sex trafficking case. Epstein is facing serious prison time, potentially the rest of his life. And then, the legal maneuvering begins. Epstein hires an army of lawyers. Not just any lawyers, the best money can buy. Alan Dershowitz, Roy Black, Kenneth Starr, yes, the same Kenneth Starr who investigated President Clinton. A legal dream team that would cost millions of dollars. They challenge evidence, they file motions, they negotiate behind closed doors. And somehow, after 2 years of legal warfare, a deal is reached. June 2008, Epstein pleads guilty to 2 state charges, soliciting prostitution from a 14-year-old girl and procuring a person under 18 for prostitution. Read that again. The charges don't even mention rape or abuse. They characterize his victims, children, as prostitutes, willing participants. The sentence is 18 months in county jail, not federal prison, county jail. But even that understates what actually happened. Epstein is granted work release privileges, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He leaves the jail and goes to his private office in West Palm Beach. He's driven there in a luxury car. He works, he makes phone calls, he conducts business. Then, at the end of the day, he returns to his private cell. He serves just 13 months of his already lenient sentence. Meanwhile, the federal case, the one with 34 victims and charges that could have resulted in decades in prison, is quietly shut down, sealed. The victims aren't informed in advance.
They discover later that the man who abused them has received minimal punishment, and they were never even consulted. The person who negotiated this deal on the prosecution side was Alexander Acosta, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Years later, when he's serving as U.S. Secretary of Labor under President Trump, reporters dig into the Epstein case and expose the details of this controversial plea agreement. The public outcry is significant. Acosta resigns from his cabinet position. In the aftermath, various reports emerge about the deal. According to some accounts, Acosta later told officials he'd been advised to back off during the Epstein case, with some reports quoting him as saying Epstein belonged to intelligence. The context and accuracy of these claims have never been fully verified, and no official confirmation has ever been provided about what this might mean. The question remains, how does a case with overwhelming evidence result in such a lenient outcome? The victims are devastated. Courtney Wild, one of the survivors, later says she felt betrayed by the very system that was supposed to protect her. She and other victims file lawsuits, fighting for years to have their voices heard. But by then, Jeffrey Epstein has moved on. He returns to his properties, his island, his private jet. He continues his lifestyle. He continues his connections. He exists as a registered sex offender, yes, but one who still maintains access to wealth and certain social circles. For over a decade, the case fades from public consciousness. The media moves on. Jeffrey Epstein recedes back into relative obscurity. But some people never forget. Survivors keep speaking out. Journalists keep investigating. And slowly, quietly, a new case begins to take shape. July 6, 2019, Teterboro Airport, New Jersey, late afternoon. A private jet touches down on American soil, returning from Paris. It's a Gulfstream, sleek, luxurious, the kind of aircraft only the ultra-wealthy can afford. As the plane taxis to a stop and the door opens, Epstein steps out. Instead of his driver, he's met by federal agents. He's arrested, on the spot, handcuffed, read his rights. The charges? Sex trafficking of minors, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. This time, there will be no quiet plea deal, no sealed records, no work release privileges. This time, the Southern District of New York is handling the prosecution, and they have a reputation for aggressive prosecution. Within hours, news of Epstein's arrest explodes across every media platform. Cable news dedicates entire segments to his story. Social media erupts with discussion and analysis. Investigative journalists scramble to uncover new details, and those details are deeply troubling. Prosecutors reveal that Epstein allegedly ran a network of abuse from at least 2002 through 2005, operating out of his Manhattan mansion and his Palm Beach estate. They describe a systematic operation, recruiters finding vulnerable girls, many from difficult circumstances. The girls are brought to Epstein's properties under false pretenses. Once there, they're abused. Some are paid, some are threatened. Many are told to recruit others. The parallels to the 2008 case are undeniable, but this time, federal prosecutors are treating it as sex trafficking. The public is transfixed, because it's not just about Epstein anymore. It's about questions surrounding his connections. Flight logs from his private jet are leaked and analyzed. Various names appear in these logs, some well-known public figures. It's important to note, being on a flight log doesn't mean someone participated or knew about Epstein's crimes. Many people flew on his plane for legitimate reasons: business meetings, charitable events, political fundraising. But the logs raise questions about the extent of his social network. Contact information from what became known as Epstein's Little Black Book also surfaces publicly, containing names and numbers of numerous individuals across various fields. The world watches and waits. What will happen at trial? What testimony will emerge? What details will come to light? At his bail hearing on July 18th, prosecutors argue vehemently that Epstein should remain in custody. He has significant financial resources, they say. He owns properties in multiple countries. He has access to private aircraft. He's a flight risk. His lawyers counter with an offer. Epstein will remain under house arrest in his Manhattan mansion, monitored 24/7 by security he'll pay for himself. Electronic monitoring, no internet, no contact with victims or witnesses. The judge considers and denies bail. Jeffrey Epstein is remanded to the Metropolitan Correctional Facility in Manhattan, MCC, a federal detention facility known for housing high-profile inmates. He'll wait there until his trial. The stakes are enormous. Media trucks camp outside the courthouse. Victims begin preparing their testimony. Lawyers on both sides prepare their strategies. Inside MCC, Epstein is placed in the Special Housing Unit, protective custody, reserved for inmates at potential risk. Guards are supposed to check on him every 30 minutes. He's supposed to have a cellmate at all times. July 23rd, just over 2 weeks into his detention, guards find Epstein on the floor of his cell, semi-conscious with marks on his neck. It's unclear what happened, a suicide attempt, self-harm, or possibly something else entirely. The response is immediate. Epstein is placed on suicide watch, the highest level of monitoring in federal custody. He's moved to a cell with 24/7 observation. A psychological evaluation is ordered. For 6 days, he's watched constantly. Then, on July 29th, the suicide watch is lifted. Prison psychologists evaluate him and determine he's no longer at immediate risk. He's returned to the Special Housing Unit with instructions that he must have a cellmate and be checked every 30 minutes. August 9th, 2019, 11 days later, evening. Epstein's cellmate is transferred out of the cell. The official reason given later was space was needed elsewhere in the facility. Epstein is left alone. That night, 2 correctional officers are assigned to guard the tier where Epstein is housed. Both are working overtime shifts. They've been on duty for extended hours. Surveillance cameras positioned in the hallway outside Epstein's cell are supposed to record continuously. The protocol is clear. Check on high-profile inmates every 30 minutes. Log each check. Remain vigilant. But as night falls on August 9th, multiple failures occur simultaneously. August 10th, 2019, 6:30 a.m., Metropolitan Correctional Facility, Manhattan. Correctional officers enter the Special Housing Unit for the morning count, standard procedure. They walk down the tier, checking cells, counting inmates. When they reach Jeffrey Epstein's cell, they stop. Epstein is hanging from the top bunk. A bedsheet is tied around his neck, the other end secured to the bed frame. He's not moving. His body is cold. He's been dead for hours. Officers call for medical assistance. Epstein is taken down, rushed to New York Presbyterian Lower Manhattan Hospital. Doctors attempt resuscitation, but it's too late. At 7:36 a.m., Jeffrey Epstein is pronounced dead. Within minutes, news breaks. Social media explodes with reactions. Cable news interrupts regular programming. The Attorney General of the United States, William Barr, issues a statement expressing concern and promising a thorough investigation. And then, the details start emerging. Details that raise serious questions about what happened that night. First, the guards. The 2 correctional officers who were supposed to check on Epstein every 30 minutes didn't complete their rounds. They fell asleep at their desk. For over 3 hours, they never physically checked on the most high-profile inmate in federal custody. To cover up their failure, they falsified the logs, making it appear as though they had completed their rounds when they hadn't. Second, the cameras. The surveillance cameras positioned to capture footage of the hallway outside Epstein's cell both malfunctioned during the hours in question. No usable footage exists of the area where Epstein died during the critical time period. Third, the cellmate.
Despite protocols typically requiring that inmates recently removed from suicide watch should have cellmates, Epstein's cellmate was transferred just hours before his death. The explanation given later was space needs, raised questions about adherence to standard procedures for high-risk inmates. Fourth, the suicide watch. Just 11 days earlier, Epstein had been found injured in his cell and placed under the most intensive monitoring available. Yet prison psychologists determined he was no longer at immediate risk and removed him from that level of observation. These failures, occurring simultaneously, created the conditions under which Epstein died alone and unmonitored. The autopsy is conducted by Dr. Barbara Sampson, New York City's chief medical examiner. She rules the manner of death as suicide by hanging. The official determination is clear. However, Dr. Michael Baden, a renowned forensic pathologist hired by Epstein's brother to observe the autopsy, raises some questions about the findings. He notes that several bones in Epstein's neck were broken, specifically the hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage. While Dr. Baden acknowledges these injuries can occur in hangings, he points out they're also seen in cases of strangulation. He doesn't conclude it was murder, but suggests the evidence warrants careful consideration. The Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General launches an investigation into the circumstances of Epstein's death. Their report, released months later, is highly critical. It identifies multiple failures: staffing shortages that led to guards working extreme overtime, lack of proper oversight in the special housing unit, failure to follow protocols for high-profile inmates, and failure to maintain surveillance equipment. Crucially, the report concludes there is no evidence of foul play. The guards were charged with falsifying records. They later took plea deals. The official conclusion: Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide. No evidence proves otherwise. The circumstances, the convergence of failures, still fuel skepticism. From a psychological perspective, suicide is plausible. Epstein was a man obsessed with control, power, influence, precision. For decades, he orchestrated his world carefully. Facing life in prison, stripped of status and leverage, suicide could have been one final act of autonomy. Death over disgrace. Control until the very end. That interpretation aligns with the official findings. The medical examiner ruled it suicide. Investigations found no evidence of homicide. Physically, psychologically, the conclusion makes sense. And yet, questions remain. Not because there is proof of murder, there isn't, but because the failures were real. Jeffrey Epstein died on August 10, 2019, in federal custody. Guards failed to perform required checks. Security cameras malfunctioned. Protocols weren't followed. A suicide watch had been lifted just days earlier. These are not theories, they are documented facts. The trial that could have publicly exposed the full scope of his crimes never happened. The cross-examination that might have revealed more about his network never occurred. Victims prepared for years to face him in court. Instead, they woke up to headlines announcing his death. The investigation continued. Ghislaine Maxwell was later arrested, tried, and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Some accountability was achieved, but without Epstein on the stand, certain answers may never come. Documents continue to surface. Names appear in records, though appearing in a document does not equal guilt. Survivors continue seeking justice through civil cases. Still, the complete picture may remain incomplete. Whether Epstein died by suicide or through some other means, one fact is undeniable. He died before facing trial, before answering questions, before the public could hear everything. For some, the official explanation is enough. A man facing life imprisonment made a final decision. For others, the scale of failure raises deeper concerns, not conspiracy, but competence. Both sides look at the same facts, they simply reach different conclusions. And maybe that's what this story has become. Not just a question of how one man died, but a question of trust. Trust in institutions, trust in oversight, Trust in a system designed to prevent exactly this outcome. The official record says suicide. No evidence proves murder. But the failures were catastrophic. Epstein's victims deserved their day in court. The public deserved a full accounting. Justice deserved the chance to run its course. None of that happened. The cell door closed. The investigation ended. The case was marked complete. But the conversation continues, because questioning power isn't conspiracy, it's citizenship. The evidence is documented. The conclusions are written. What you believe happened in that cell may say as much about your trust in institutions as it does about the facts themselves. And maybe that's the real unanswered question.